I mean, I don't have too much to add to my viewings. It's like I don't feel like I'm meant to take on like a dissecting role, but just an average viewer role of James Bond on Her Majesty's service after 4 successful Sean Connerys.
5, 4. Was it
5?
Hold
I
on.
thought it was 4, but I have no
2,
idea.
3, 4, 5. This was number
5.
6.
Oh my. That is more James Bonds than I probably watched before. Because, like, Casino Royale is probably the most recent. And I think I watched GoldenEye in my youth. And
Like all of us did. It was required viewing. That's fantastic, though. I love that. I don't know. Maybe just take on the idea of the average first time viewer if it's your first time for that thing. I really don't want to come off as pretentious because I don't know anything about filmmaking. I don't know anything about the craft. I only know what I like and don't like.
I think that's a easy way for it to work anyway, because it's not a film review. It's a rating and enjoying. Was this an enjoyable departure from Sean Connery? I won't give a rating yet, but it was interesting that the intro scroll is a hourglass and like all scenes of the Sean Connery films.
Yep. Without a
I wasn't sure
Sean
what to make
Connery
of
that. In those
pictures. It's like, okay, so this is historic Bond, maybe like multiverse Bond. Here is brand new Bond universe, and I think he was a charming man and took on the role just fine. I think it was a different Bond.
It was a different Bond. Well, let's actually start this thing, so you don't do your whole spiel and then we have to record.
I will have no more spiels after this. I will go silent.
How could you have wasted it all in the beginning?
Because there's no pressure at the beginning. It's all fine.
You know I'm going to cut most of it. That's why you do it to me. Potato Chip Pictures. My name is B. Sammy Davis.
And for this film, my name is James.
It's crazy. And this is a movie review podcast where we look at movie franchises. We are currently 6 movies in on the 007 franchise. We watched On Her Majesty's Secret Service for like the past 2 weeks, because those of you who do subscribe and keep up with us, I was sick last week. It's my fault. James is not to blame. He did his thing. He was ready to go every time. And then I was the one who was like, I can't do it.
Nah, I was also a little slow on the finishing watching. I started it off after our last recording, and it was enjoyable. I think it was a nice departure from Sean Connery. Guy felt like James Bond. And I mean, what more are we really asking from this universe?
Yeah.
It's James Bond.
It's a dumb action movie that has some international thrills, but
yeah, this
isn't high art by any means, and I think I love it for that. I'm fine with it not being high art.
I mean, I think that I saw that it had some awards that it won, or maybe with some good ratings. I can't remember what I saw because it was counterintuitive. I thought it was going to be panned, and it seemed like it. For me, watching it, it turned out okay and heartbreaking.
This is a divisive movie, and I do think time has been in this movie's favor. I think that when it first came out, it had a budget of $7 million And it made, let me see, hold on. I've got it because I don't think that's right. It made $82 million in its combined box office. It was the biggest movie of the year for 1969 in the UK. It was number one in the box office when it was released in the US. It did well, but at the time, there were a lot of people that just couldn't handle Sean Connery leaving and George Lazenby coming in. For the British public, they were looking at Lazenby as a commercials dude. He was a guy who did commercials for big fries, and he would carry big stuff around. It was just a weird commercial, and that was what got him his job.
French fries?
No, like I think it's Fry's Electronics, but it might be a different company.
Oh, okay, Fry's. I've heard of Fry's Electronics, but man, that was so not in my brain. Okay.
Every time that I saw a making of or a behind the scenes, they would mention Big Fry's. And I was like, is this a food chain? And then I finally saw the commercial, and it looks like he's just carrying a big box of something. Like, I don't know what they sell at Big Fry's, but
we like how you carry that.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's our Bond. But he's an Australian model at the time. He has a very thick Australian accent, and he doesn't know anything about Bond. All he does is show up for photo shoots and stuff like that. And he doesn't watch movies. He didn't know anything about it, but he also really wanted this job when it became even a hint that it could be available. He was like, hells yeah, I'm going to be Bond. I'm going to do everything that Bond did.
That's like, who wants to be Iron Man? Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
That's exactly a good way to look at it. If there were any actor in the world today offered the role of Iron Man, I think all of them would take it. All of them would be like, I saw what this did to the last guy. I'll take it.
Except that didn't happen to the last guy. This is such a random intro. It got me lost for a little bit. But
well,
anyway,
one final thing. This was the 11th book from the series. In fact, I'm gonna give a little bit that I saw about the making of this movie. In addition to this being the 11th book, it came out the same year that Dr. No came out, and it was the best-selling Bond book to that time. And then the director on this movie had been the editor for the previous movies, and he really loved Dr. No. He was like, I kind of want to go back to a lot of outdoor filming, real locations that people can visit in real life. And I just want that feel. I don't want the gadgets, and I don't want the big elaborate sets. I don't want the impractical action. I want something that feels real. And then the other goal he had was to stick to the book. So, not having read the book, I have no idea how closely he stuck to the book, but we will get to the ending, and it was a brutal one.
Yeah. I wasn't, it's, when you said Dr. No, I went back to just the previous one that we watched, and my brain thought that the evil villain there was Dr. No, but like, oh, wait. It's way back to the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
With the island and the radioactivity and the jamming. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, I can kind of see some of that in the show itself, because, man, there's a lot of on-location type of shooting.
That palace, or not really palace, but that bungalow they found at the top of the Alps, all they added to it was the helicopter pad. And there are some action sequence that happen there, but they were like, this is exactly what we're looking for. Let's this is the only location we can use. This is the one. and they got it. So good on them. Let's get into it, because this movie, it kind of starts a little different than the rest of them. It's, instead of there being a big action sequence, if I remember correctly, this movie starts with M and Q in M's office discussing their missing agent.
The radioactive lint or something that we could track him with.
And that's going to be our only Q gadget for this whole movie.
Interesting. I didn't think of it, because why? He's in the car a lot.
I mean, we do have a new car. I don't know if it's got gadgets, but he does have that old, put it together yourself sniper rifle. So he does pull out the little scope from that. So we've got some old gadgets. I'm willing to give them
nothing new. No more Q, and then no more gadgets.
Yeah. The only other tech that we're going to see, I think it comes from Draco, and it's that safe cracker that we're going to see significantly later. But otherwise, this movie does not really shine a bright light on the British Secret Service. And one of the things you'll see in a lot of the making ofs with this movie is they use that that conflicting nature of Bond versus M as a way to point to the relationship between Lazenby and the producers. They're just like, yeah, it was such a bad relationship. Watch this movie. That's kind of how it was.
Interesting. Oh, and all behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting. I mean, once we get there, but we'll get there, because the interaction is a nice kind of human touch of, I'm going to resign because you won't let me do this mission. Yeah. Like, well, there's the door, basically.
Yep,
but Moneypenny is like, he doesn't really mean that. And M is like, well, I don't mind, but like, they both save face. Mm-hmm. And she keeps the movie going.
Yep.
Like, otherwise you resign.
And so to me, the first half of the movie is not my favorite. A lot of it just kind of happens, and a lot of it is to set up this relationship between Contessa Teresa Da Vincio.
Oh, yeah.
Or Da Vincio. I have no idea. We call her Tracy. She's going to try to kill herself by drowning at the very beginning, and then magically 2 thugs are going to show up to beat up Bond.
Very magically.
Yes.
Oh, surprise, I have a knife to the person that you're hovering over. How did you get here?
And then we'll meet her again when she decides to go to this hotel and make a bet that she can't pay for, and then
she's just suicidal, like.
Yeah, there's a goon in her room, but somehow she sneaks into Bond's room, like.
Well, I think I don't quite know the interaction, because the second time I watched it was like, oh, okay, he's gotten her key, but he goes to the room, gets attacked, but she shows up in his room to repay the debt, quotes, air quotes.
Yep,
and pulls a gun on him, but he disarms her and smacks her, and it's like, well, there's a little bit of the old Bond still here.
Yep, just a bit. But they make these meta references where they're like, this never happened to the old guy, as you mentioned before, but then Miss Moneypenny will say, same old James, but more so, and so they're making this commentary where it's like, yeah, it's the new guy, but significantly later in the movie, Bond and Blofeld are going to go face to face and meet each other and neither will recognize the other. And so
this disguise is working so well.
Exactly. So there is this debate that comes from this movie that asks the question, is Bond a title or is Bond a person? Like, are we having the same person just with a different actor? That's fine. Or is the difference in actor suggesting that a new person has taken on the Bond title? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but then Blofeld is a different dude too, so...
Well, they explain that away with plastic surgery.
Oh.
Bond even mentions after he's captured, he's like, plastic surgery isn't going to be enough to convince people. And so that justifies Bond not recognizing Blofeld. But Bond did not get plastic surgery. He's still James Bond. And so I tend to lean towards this is a human being named James Bond, and we're just putting different actors in the part, but it's the same person in this universe. But then I see things like Blofeld not recognizing Bond when they're face to face, and I'm like, well, maybe it's a title. Like,
I feel like if you try to pin it down, I would lean more towards it being just a different Spider-Man type situation, and this Blofeld is just another Blofeld in this new universe, just to make it a clean cut.
Now that's an interesting direction to take it.
I didn't watch close enough to be like, here's all the references that they are making, like that plastic surgery. I didn't clock that, so.
So in your head, you were thinking like it's more that in You Only Live Twice, this universe never had Bond and Blofeld going face to face. This universe had Blofeld escape, and this version of Bond has been hunting him for 2 years unsuccessfully. That's a very interesting
I would
idea.
probably say that it feels more like Tobey Maguire to Andrew Garfield. This is the current movement of Bond, but then you have the same secretary and M and Q. So I don't know. Those are the anchor entities.
I will be frank with you. I have wanted to have this. The whole reason I convinced you to do this podcast with me is because I've wanted to talk about this specific thing with other people. I have wanted to be like, so what's the deal? What do you think the deal is? And you have given me a third perspective that I have never considered in the past.
I feel like it just untangles enough for me not to have to think about the previous Bonds and the resolutions of Dr. No or whatever the last one we just watched was.
Well, that was You Only Live Twice.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the volcano layer that I loved so very much.
But the people like Moneypenny and M and Q really complicate that.
Well,
but,
I mean, we've got J. Jonah Jameson almost always being played by what's his name, so I can live with an anchor being as as a concept. And frankly, your perspective is probably closer to reality because we're going to have different directors with a lot of these movies, and they may reference big concepts from previous movies, but this is not a linear story. This is not something that we are supposed to view as first this happened and then On Her Majesty's Secret Service happened and then the next movie happened. It's more meant to be taken as if this is the very first time you walked into a Bond movie, here is a whole Bond movie for you to enjoy.
Yeah.
So I don't think they really tried to have a connected universe until Daniel Craig, and I'm not even sure if they really committed to that. You know,
I wouldn't be able to tell you if it. I know Casino Royale is like first, and then the last one is last, whatever the name of that one is. But the other two, uh, I don't know. I couldn't. I think the Quantum is a sequel, like directly a sequel, but
yeah. And we'll get there. We'll get to have this discussion multiple times. We'll get to have it again in the very next movie when you don't get to be James anymore.
I'll give up my real name and I'll go back to using the pseudonym.
Let me give you a little bit of director rundown. So we have had 4 directors with our 6 movies. Terrence Young directed 3 of them. He did the first 2 and then Thunderball. Our current director, Peter Hunt, is most influenced by Terrence Young. He's like, that's the guy. Then you've got Guy Hamilton, who did Goldfinger. He's going to be back for the next 3 movies.
Oh.
And then you get Lewis Gilbert, who did You Only Live Twice. And he'll be back again as well. So we're going to have all these different directors who have their own unique but also sort of connected vision coming back and doing things. I don't know if Peter Hunt gets another movie. No, he does not get another Bond movie. This really is kind of a tragedy because a lot of people put in a lot of work and they did not get another chance to do it again.
Interesting. Well, Goldfinger was decent. I mean, I like the supervillain lair.
Exactly. But it's so hard because there's so many good things about Goldfinger, and then it's got that ending that just hurts my soul.
Doesn't quite work.
Just thinking about it today. But anyway, we've, now that we have gone through most of the early kind of oddities that just kind of happen. We forgot to mention that Bond got captured by Tracy's father because a lot of this movie happens because of corruption.
I need you to do something for me.
Exactly. Bond is going to meet the second biggest crime lord in Europe, second only to Spectre, and they're just going to hang out and have a good time, talk about dating his daughter, and if he dates Tracy, then Draco will try to find some information about Blofeld, and it's it's a little tit for tat. You have my girl, I have your man, and it's like, ooh, it's one of those infuriating scenes where you're just like, this would not fly.
It is a very slow setup and convenient meetups that bring us to, so there's this, I'm out. I need to find this big evil guy, and this still major evil guy is got some information only because I saved his daughter. And like, okay, I mean, let's give you all those assumptions and then let's get to the meat of the story.
Exactly. And I mean, in this early part of the movie where Bond he hasn't even come back to headquarters. He's still out and about. He, for all we know, he's on vacation and he's about to go on another vacation. But, he's missing and he's hanging out with criminals. And then he goes to London where he's fired from the Blofeld case. And as much as I hate the fact that these scenes are used to illustrate a real life relationship, I do love that, like, at least in this universe, this version of Bond really feels hampered by the rest of the organization. He's like, I just need to go forward. You can't be pulling my leash. You've got to let me do my job. And he's ready to quit because of it.
Yeah. I think, well, it was a little confused by the M being unhappy that his license to kill has not been used, essentially. What good is it if you don't actually kill someone?
You haven't murdered a single person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make M look very good, but
yeah,
as you mentioned earlier, it makes Miss Moneypenny look like the glue that holds this whole organization together.
It's like, no, you can't quit. No, you can't fire him. Okay.
Yep.
We're now 40 minutes into the movie, and can you go after the person he wants to go after?
Nope.
That's a lot of...
He cannot do that. Instead,
he's got to go on dates
vacation because he's going to go to Draco's birthday party.
I wrote it down. It was like the dates happen like in 2 weeks or something. Well, they fall in love so fast.
They give us the love montage, but even with the love montage, we're going to cut back to Tracy at some point, and she's going to be like, I'm in love with Bond. And her dad's going to be like, well, does he love you? And she's like, maybe one day, like not now. He's like, then what the hell was the point of that whole montage? He looked pretty in love with her.
Yeah. Which was a interesting setup for what happens in the future of his mission, where he's surrounded by a bunch of women that are getting allergy shots or something, and
he's actively banging two of them.
Right. Like, so yes, you didn't like propose or anything, but you're seriously unserious. And
yes.
I don't know what to make of when you come back and like, getting ahead of ourselves, because
we are getting a little bit ahead, but we do need to point this out, because not only is Tracy in love with Bond, but that is going to come back as kind of the saving grace of the movie. That's going to be essentially what saves Bond towards the end. And a lot of people, I think, missed that at the beginning. At least back then when they watched it. I think they were like, oh, weird, now Tracy's here. And I don't think they picked up on, like, she's jealously in love with her man now because of this montage. Like, she's into Bond. The other thing I want to point out, I got to find her name, Diana Rigg. She was a pretty big actress at the time. She was in the TV series The Avengers, which is different from the Marvel Avengers, but also had a movie based on it from the 90s. And
I went to see that one.
It's a pretty dang good movie.
It was interesting. Uma Thurman and... Right? Is that the one?
I think so. I saw it in theaters as a kid, and I loved it, and then I never saw it again.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's one of those, did this movie actually happen?
Exactly. But in this particular movie, you had this model George Lazenby who was actively taking acting lessons and voice lessons to try to get his accent correct and really doing his best to do this. And then you've got Diana Rigg, who is an actual and a well-known actor, and she can carry a lot of the scenes that she is in. She really does a lot of the legwork in terms of acting.
She may not be able to cry on cue, though.
Yeah, they need to put some droplets of water on her face, but...
Make sure you turn around slowly and they stay on your face.
Well, and that's another thing that makes me wonder, because, you know, a lot of people talk about what made this movie fail, because by no uncertain terms, at the time of release, this movie was considered a failure. Mm. And I wonder if the very positive off-camera relationship between George, Diana, and Telly, the guy who played Blofeld, I wonder if that kind of contributed to the movie not quite doing what it needed to do, because these were all friends. These were people that really had a genuine love and respect for each other at the time of filming. There's a lot of on-set stories of just whenever the two actors were together, they were just teasing and having fun. And then when Diana's out of the movie for a long period, then George and Telly Savalas are hanging out, and they're playing cards together and going out on the town and getting too drunk. And like,
oh no,
you've got Bond and Blofeld at a bar hanging out together.
I mean, that possibly could have fed into that. I think I do enjoy the Blofeld maybe a bit more than the previous, because he's a little less robotic and villainously detached.
I loved the last movie's Blofeld, but I think it's because it just surprised me so much. I was just like, wow, here he is. This is the guy, and he lives up to expectations. But I do think that this Blofeld has a much more subtle and more believable performance at times. Like you really do buy into this idea that he is going to be Count Bluchamp. And he is not Blofeld. He's just a guy who runs an allergy clinic that loves to hypnotize people. But
I am so confused as to why they included this. What do you call it?
The heist at the lawyer office?
No, the title thing that you just talked about, the coat of arms, and this whole side quest that adds the reason why he can get up to the Alps.
This is one of the weakest elements, but during Bond's scene with M, where he makes a house call on M to be like, you need to give me my job back, I'm going to do this thing. He lays it out that he has already talked to the Office of the Coat of Arms and arranged to take the place of one of their people, who happens to be Sir Hilary Bray. But Bray doesn't really find out about it until Bond goes to his office. And he's just like, this is irregular, but whatever. Here's all of the stuff. And I love, okay, so here's another one of those things that points to this being the same man, just portrayed by different actors, or in your idea, a different universe where this is the version of Bond. They give that family history, and they say that the coat of arms has that family saying where the world is not enough, and that's going to later be a title of a movie. And I'm just like, why is the world not enough for a Bond? Was he once a villain?
Oh, yeah.
But, they don't really say anything about it. It's really just there for us to see the actor who is going to be the voice actor for Bond for a lot of this movie. Because for a lot of it, when Bond goes up, despite the fact that he had practiced sounding like this actor, when it came to production time, they just edited out Lazenby's voice and put the guy who played Hilary Bray as the voice actor for Bond.
You're blowing my mind, because
I know, it blew my mind.
I did not notice it, because the other edits of voiceovers have been pretty distinct and clearly like an edit.
Well, and I think part of what made it work here was that George Lazenby wanted to sound like Sir Hilary Bray. So he was doing an impression, and all the actor had to do was essentially his own voice over an impression of his voice.
That is really different. I would earlier when you said he's Australian, I was like, oh, well, he must have done like the other guys and practiced and gotten the right accent down. Interesting.
I mean, it's his voice when he is Bond, but for the times when he is undercover as Sir Hilary Bray, and speaking, they're going to put a different voice actor over his voice. And I like it. I didn't notice it until I heard it out of George Lazenby's mouth when he was like, I worked really hard at that voice, and then I go into the movie and it's somebody else's voice.
Oh, that's still interesting.
He still got to be himself for Bond. You know, when we are hearing Bond speak, that is George Lazenby. It's just
okay.
Bond as Bray is the actor who played Bray.
That'll be interesting to see if I ever watch it again.
Yeah, like listen for it, see what you think about it. But
still, it's the weakest part.
Yes,
I still don't understand he wants to have this title. Okay, you're trying to threaten the entire world.
Okay, I forgot to tell you why he wants the title. They don't tell you until towards the end of the movie, and they keep teasing it throughout the movie, but it's very dumb, so we might as well get it out of the way.
Okay, enlighten me, because I was like, why do we care? Yeah. Why is the coat of arms a plot point? It's not clear to me.
Blofeld is getting ready to retire. He does not want to be the head of Spectre anymore. So for his final end of the world scheme, he wants every government in the world to give him a full pardon for all past crimes and to accept that he is the heir to the Beauchamp title so that he can change his name and then live as Balthazar de Beauchamp for the rest of his days with a full pardon. And when I hear this from M at the end of the movie, and we'll get to it then, I get infuriated because what we have learned from living in the world is that when someone seems to get away with something, someone else is going to show up and kill them later. Like, how could Blofeld think that this is a good bargaining chip, that this is a good ransom to hold? But that is the reason he wants the coat of arms and he wants the genealogy. He really wants for the genealogist to declare it naturally so that he does not have to have that as a bargaining chip. And in that case, his only bargaining chip is to say, I want the pardon. And then he can just continue living as Beauchamp, and people will always wonder whatever happened to Blofeld. But Bond finds out all of this later, and that's the reason he needs all of it. It's my least favorite ransom of them all. I love the scheme. I hate the ransom.
That didn't... I only thought he was threatening the world, and this coat of arms was a side quest that he was just a hobbyist, really wanted to have this coat of arms.
Blofeld's just hanging out, just like, man, I really love that Beauchamp coat of arms.
Exactly.
Let's make me a Beauchamp. I want that coat of arms.
Basically, exactly. And man, if it didn't get confusing. That's like, oh, he's gonna... I felt like his villain motive was just destruction and being able to threaten people.
Well, and it might as well be. I'll be honest with you. I think that would have been better than what they ended up with. But I think this comes from the book. Remember, we are trying to stick with the book. I've never read the book. I have no idea how close it is sticking to it. But something tells me that if that was the goal, someone else wouldn't be like, maybe we should make this better. Like, maybe we should take a second pass at this whole retirement scheme.
Whole motivation.
Yeah, it is one of those things where it really kind of sucks, but I do really appreciate the scheme that Blofeld has. I hate that he cures allergies with hypnosis. But
those aren't actual things, allergies. They're just... your body reacting.
It's in your head, man.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. But it's a good ruse for having these innocent girls carry out the end of the world, you know?
Yeah.
So
Gotta kill certain things with the virus introduction or something.
yeah. He calls them his angels of death. And the more that I think about that term, I'm like, that is a really good term for them, because they are not evil girls. They're not out there trying to kill Bond or even kill anybody. They're just normal, innocent little women who wanted to get their allergies cured, and they are going to be the ones used to end the world as we know it. And I think that's dope. So this movie has a lot of things going for it.
I do think when he's talking about the plan, it felt like he had already hypnotized and sent out other women.
I got that impression too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, they don't explain if they're from anywhere in particular, so like how much impact would one woman, what do you call those agents? Sleeper cell agent that lives in
the Manchurian candidates.
Population density of like 2,000 people per square mile or otherwise.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
make sure you send it to the right place.
Their whole thing was going after girls who lived on or near farms, you know, because he wanted to go after cattle and cereal grains. And that's what we learned about the blonde girl, was that she lived on a chicken farm, but she was allergic to chicken.
Chickens. And now she loves the taste of chicken.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I hate that scene too. Why'd you have to bring up that scene?
We'll get to that scene. Where are we?
Let's put ourselves back in the movie. George Lazenby, playing Bond, is playing Sir Hilary Bray, a gay man who does genealogy, and he's going to go to the Swiss Alps, and he tells the woman's name is Bunt. I don't remember her first name, but she's a pretty fun henchman, so I'm into her. But he's like, I don't travel well. I'm not a sporty guy. I don't do any of the guy things. That's just not my jam. They put him on a helicopter to take him all the way to the top, and he looks ready to puke the whole way up. And so I love that little bit. I'm like, wow, you know, Lazenby sold it to me. I was buying his undercover agent thing that he was doing. So kudos there. I'm into that. And then we get to this mountaintop layer. We get to see Chekhov's spikes hanging on the walls. We'll come back to those later, but you know, there's spikes on the wall and Chekhov's gun exists. So we're definitely going to see those used.
The first time that I saw them and thinking that they'd get used, but only the second time that I watched it did I recall seeing them get spiked.
Well, the first time I see them, I was just like, okay, they're decoration. It fits the iron style motif that's going on in this whole place. But then when they specifically showed it a second time, I was like, okay, we're going to use the spikes.
It's just sitting there.
It's got to be
Why else
used.
Would you?
But they've got this prison style allergy clinic where you cannot get out of your room once you are inside. You have to request permission to get out of your room. And so everybody's got a button that'll let them into the room, but then they can't get out once they're inside. So Bond's going to have to find a way out.
So I'm going to go back on the undercover and say I didn't pick up any clear sign of Bray being gay in the introduction, or even when the women said, I didn't know you liked women, and it's like, but
So
What
it was
told you that?
sprung on us. So he comes in to meet the girls, and they have dinner together. The girls, they go to town on their meals.
Yeah.
It's a little gross, but whatever. The blonde girl gets an idea to use her lipstick on Bond's leg.
I was like, he's wearing a kilt.
Yeah.
Is this from the coat of arms? Undercoverness? Or, it's so that she can write her room number in lipstick on his thigh.
So all of this is happening, and we're just sitting here thinking like, okay, so Bray is just a regular British horny man. That's the way it must be. And then he gets up to leave, I think to go meet Blofeld. And that's when the girls are like, too bad he's gay. It's
okay. It's like,
where the hell did that come from?
be a deleted scene or something. I don't know.
Yeah, like I haven't looked enough into it to figure it out. But yeah, there's no hint, no clue until one of the girls just goes, oh, that's too bad.
Okay. That's where it came from, because I was like, he eventually ends up in the rooms and is like, well, actually, no, you're just a special woman. And he says the same thing to the other woman.
He says the exact same thing, line for line, to the woman in his own
decent
room later.
Bond moment of, here's the exact same line that worked on the last woman 10 minutes ago.
It's gonna work again, and it does work again. But I do like, so, you know, before Bond goes to meet the girl who gave him her room number, he's got to figure out a way out, and he gets this metal rod, shocks himself, and then comes up with this whole contraption of using an eraser that he breaks in half, and then a paper clip to hold it in place. Then he can use his metal rod. And then the next girl, when he goes back to his room, she's like, I just used this wood. I used a wooden file.
Yeah.
Why do you have to do all of this weird stuff? I just love
it's easier
that.
to get it.
Yeah. And he will use the file later. He's like, yeah, that is better. Like I overthought it. So I do like that a lot. There are little things that are great. Bond has a tail while he is in the Alps, not like someone trying to kill him. It's one of Draco's men who is just keeping an eye on him.
I thought it was M's man, but I guess it was Draco's.
This movie, no one from London is going to help Bond. Like, earlier on, when Bond was breaking into the lawyer's office, it was that same blonde dude who was working in the Draco construction area, and I'm pretty sure it's a Draco copy machine / safe breaker that he uses.
I did notice that the badging on like the crane operating stand was Draco. I was like, oh, that's a pretty good production detail. Yes. I did not remember that that's the same guy that did the crane as the guy that's in the Alps. That makes a bit more sense, because I was wondering who sent him and why is he here? Bond's already here.
It's not MI6. It's not London. It's his future father-in-law, the criminal Draco. And like, there's so much corruption happening, but it's okay because the good guys win.
Yeah, that's the the means justify the ends, or ends justify the means.
That's what it is. I think it's supposed to be the means will create the ends, but we end up using the ends to justify our means. And
that's the bad one.
That's the bad one that Bond is doing in this movie.
There's spikes.
Yeah, like It's very interesting to see just how on his own Bond is going to be in this movie. And when he comes face to face with Beauchamp, we don't know if it's Blofeld yet. Bond doesn't recognize him. We don't know why Bond doesn't recognize him at this point in the movie. But Blofeld does not recognize Bond, and that irritates the hell out of me. It always makes me angry when the villain does not know who Bond is. Like,
well, I thought that it was the other movies where everybody knows who Bond is.
well, and maybe we can say by dressing up as Sir Hillary, he changed his haircut or something. I don't know.
Something.
I'm reaching to find any kind of justification here, and I will accept your multiverse theory that in this universe, Bond has never had his face on the newspapers.
Never had a burial at sea.
Never had
Never
a face.
Never
to
got
face.
shot.
Yep.
And survived.
Yeah. Yeah, you really have to look at it as the last movie did not exist in order for this movie to make sense. Except the last movie had to exist in order for Bond to have failed to find Blofeld for the past 2 years.
Yeah, that is... It doesn't really work as a continuity.
In the whole franchise, it's a bitter pill to take. But on its own, it's okay. I'm fine with it. I really am. I'm being hard on the movie, but, you know, I watched it again today, and just watching it on its own, I was like, you know, there's more that I like about this movie than I don't. And frankly, from the moment that Bond goes to the Alps, to the end of the movie, I'm having a good time. There are a few things that kind of make me chuckle, a few things that make me go, oh, that was awkward. But for the most part, I'm like, all right, I'm sold. I'm into this.
I enjoy the rotating restaurant from the room that he comes into. It's like, oh, all the tables roll in while they're still chatting.
That's so convenient. And then I wonder if, like, they're setting up a dessert section on the other end of the rotation.
Everybody has to go back to the conversation bit and then come back to the new tables.
Exactly. Oh, man. But Bond gets captured and he's thrown into the cable car room. And I don't love his escape. I really don't.
Well, he gets captured because he's going after the girls.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Where are we?
I did jump ahead a lot. Bond's tail finds a way up to the Alps by climbing. And the morning that he makes it up to the Alps, Bond is playing...
curling.
What is it? Curling, yeah. He's curling with the girls. Doing a bad job of it, but, you know, it's fun. It's funny.
It's undercover.
Yeah, it's very undercover.
He's doing it on purpose. He's bad at on purpose.
Yeah. And then Bond gives away the game. I think he gave it away earlier, but he's like, we need to go to this specific place. I have forgotten the place. But he keeps saying we need to set up a trip so we can go to these archives. And Blofeld's like, well, they're going to be closed for Christmas. And while he's curling with the girls and Blofeld is threatening that dude, he starts setting up dates or times with the girls. He's like, 8 o'clock with the blonde, 9 o'clock with the brunette, 10 o'clock with this other one who's never said a word for this whole movie.
And it seemed like the last one got overheard kind of. A little bit.
Something happened.
Someone knows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because when we go to the blonde's room, even though it's her at the wide shot, when they do the cut in, it is the redheaded bunt who comes out. And I was like, oh, come on. Put a wig on her. Like, sell it. If you're going to give me the wide shot. Like,
yeah. It was a surprise because I should have expected him to get caught.
Yeah.
But
at some point,
that's the same girl. That's her.
Yeah. It's so dumb. Like, there are just little things that probably could have made this movie incredible. And I just don't think they were thinking about it. And that's fine. This was everybody's first try at Bond. And it's a new actor. It's like we're doing a new franchise, essentially. So I can forgive them They're little mistakes, but I do kind of hate Bond's escape from captivity. When he's captured, it's revealed that Blofeld has known who he is, but rather than kill him, he's going to tell him his whole plan, with exception to why he's doing it.
The movie has to happen.
Yes.
That's why.
We can't kill Bond because then the movie's over too fast. And fine, fair, but Blofeld justifies it by saying, "I'm going to keep you as a demonstration of how serious I am," suggesting that maybe he's going to infect Bond or something.
Yes, that's what it sounded like.
Yeah, so I can forgive that the movie has to happen and Blofeld is not going to kill Bond, but I do kind of hate that while Blofeld is revealing his whole entire plan and Bond is like, "What are you going to demand for ransom this time?" He doesn't tell us. So he's just like, "You're going to love how creative it is. Let's take you to your cell." And it's like, I want to know it. I want to know it now, but I'm going to learn it from him later, and it's stupid.
Yeah, it felt like a normal Bond capture. It did feel like Goldfinger gonna capture, put you in this spot that's a little weird to put you in, and guess what? You're gonna get out and you're gonna ski away, and you're gonna be so good at skiing you can make it down the mountain with one ski.
Yep.
I do. As weird as it all kind of turns out, the skiing is okay.
I'm into that. I'm really only against the high wire escape. That's my only beef with his escape.
Yeah. I think I like not the escape of the high wire, but the getting thrown in some place that's not necessarily a cell.
Mm-hmm. But still threatening and intimidating to look at with all those gears and like 2 feet to stand.
Dr. No, this giant grate that's electrified. But beyond that, you can crawl to your heart's content.
There is a window that you can get out of. It's dangerous. You might fall and die, but there you go.
I know
you can
get
out.
You're not into danger. You won't risk it. Just sit here.
And so my only real beef with it is how bad Bond is with his timing. Like he times, he uses his watch to figure out how long it takes, and then he ignores it and still goes out. And then the other thing is he gets to the safe spot. We're going to call it the checkpoint, where he is now at essentially the window, and he decides to climb up onto the wires to move towards the cart that is coming at him that's going to slice off his fingers if he stays on those wires. But he doesn't need to, because where the cart will stop is exactly where he would have climbed up anyway. So I just hate the high wire escape. It infuriates me. The one cool thing is that the stuntman, on those little socks that he had this harness with hooks on his hands.
Huh.
And so he could comfortably stay on there. But it was snowing the day they filmed, and he gets up there and he starts sliding. And he was worried that he was just going to slide all the way down to the next area and just have to take a tram back up.
That'd be super scary. Ooh.
Yeah, I don't love that. It's a good looking shot, just a completely unnecessary addition to his escape. But once we're done with that stupid thing, I am totally fine with the rest of it. We get our first close up of the spikes, but we're not going to use them yet. We're not at Spike Town yet. Bond takes the elevator. He lures the guard by, the elevator dinging and then no one stepping out of it. And I love that they take that time. I love that the guard just sits there and he looks, and then he slowly stands up and walks over and starts to look in the window, and then Bond gets him. I'm into that. So there are those moments where you're just like, oh man, this movie had the right ideas.
Some moments.
Yes.
Yeah. The favorites out of the skiing chase is the 11 seconds of free fall time, which is like 600 meters
Of silence.
Yeah, that is quite the fall.
And then to demonstrate how far it is, they use a very quiet thud. And I always feel like it's so weak. I'm always like, oh man, come on. Couldn't they have had like a big whomp or something? But okay, it is a very stiff model and it's effective. I like how far it drops. At first, I thought it was a person. I was like, oh my gosh, what did they do? But then when the person did not move any of their limbs, I was like, oh, okay. We're going to watch a mannequin fall off a cliff.
Yeah. It was a very, very long fall.
I also love the one ski stuff. Now, another behind the scenes thing is apparently the director gave a second unit permission to just film a bunch of skiing stuff. They were like, here's the costumes for Bond. Here are the costumes for the villains. Go film and have fun and make good shots. And I think they did, because there's a lot of green screen work where you can put the Bond actor or the villain actors in their costume and in a certain angle. And it really does look pretty good with the green screen. It's a little too sharp. It's green screen, but I'm impressed that the angles are so spot on, And
I think it felt like most of the green screen was to get the close-up that you wouldn't be able to get, and get the decisions and emotions that the actors are doing.
And then go right back to the stunt skiers who are doing really awesome stuff, like all of them.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back to ski-based action probably too many times for my taste.
A little bit.
Yeah. But I think this is our first time with Bond on skis, and I kind of love it. I can see why they keep coming back to it, because in this movie, it is very effective, and I'm into it, and I feel the action, I feel the intensity, and I feel the fear of like what happens if you take a stray, like while you're going around. One of his skis gets shot. That could have been him. So, there are that portion of the escape I'm into, and when he finally gets to town and has to get away from the villains, like, it's pretty intense and a little surreal. I don't love the bell fight. I think that part kind of sucks.
The bell?
So...
Oh, in the little shed.
Yes. They need a noisy environment. I get it. It's showing the danger. There really is no safe place for Bond. And this also points to the fact that Bond does not have MI6 backing him up. He doesn't have escape routes planned. He doesn't have getaways.
His girl.
Yeah.
He's got his woman.
And that's one of the things that really hit me hard in this movie. He makes it to this skating rink. He's trying to blend into the crowd, but they know what he looks like. Even after he has stolen a jacket, they have spotted him and they know what they're looking for. Plus his face is all messed up with bruises and dirt and all this stuff. Like, Bond is going to die. And then Tracy appears. She just skates up. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And Bond is like, what are you doing here? And she's like, oh, you're in trouble. Here, I can help you. And for a while, I'm just sitting here like, Tracy, what magic brought you here? And then she goes, I'm obsessed with you. I asked my father where you went, and I went. Yeah. And I was like, dude, like, Bond, you might have to consider being a Mr. and Mrs. Smith type of deal, because I don't think you can just go off on your own anymore if you've got Tracy in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It helped the motion or action continue on up until the destruction derby car race.
Oh, I was just about to say, you better not talk bad about my rally race.
I am curious if it's a real thing in the Alps to happen, or if that is a transplant.
Rally racing is very popular in Europe in general, and one of the types of rally racing is a very closed circuit, very high impact type of rally racing, where you're not only proving that you're the fastest, but that your car can last hours on hours of being beaten up on these tracks. And
that's my American background, because
watch more Top Gear.
What's going on in this ice rink? There's a car race happening and stuff blows up.
I had been watching Top Gear for years and years before I saw this, and so I had already seen the old men of Top Gear essentially do this exact same race just over wet grass, where they're on a closed circuit crashing into people. But they started those races with two brand new cars. First, Tracy's Cougar, and then that sedan that the villains drive. And apparently everybody on set design was like, there's no way we're saving these cars. Like, action. And let's just hold our breath while these cars get beat up. And so I love those elements where people are like, I love this car and I have to watch it die.
Well, that gets them to the blizzard. They do get away.
They get away. And Tracy is the champ of this entire getaway. She's, from the moment she rescues Bond until the barn, she's in the driver's seat. She's the one saving the day. Bond keeps giving her these awkward kisses on the cheek.
Yeah, that was... I mean, it felt like going to the obsessed with and he was the montage of dating. Yeah. It felt a little bit like just some, thank goodness you're here. Like, thanks for saving my bacon. Like,
the first one would have been fine. It's the second time he leans over to give her a kiss on the cheek where I'm like, dude, you are still trying to get away from bad guys. Like, maybe keep it in your pants for a minute and shoot that gun of yours. But, I think in my head, when Tracy showed up on the ice rink, that's when Bond fell in love.
Yeah.
I am willing to put Bond there and say, okay, that's the scene where it happened. They have their role in the hay that happens to be consensual this time, so kudos to the movie there.
Yeah. They managed to wake up on time and get ready and start skiing.
Yeah, they started skiing. So
just before they get chased.
Yes. Another little behind the scenes with this. Diana Rigg and George Lazenby and Telly Savalas were banned from skiing while they were on the Alps. And they would constantly do it anyway and then get yelled at from the producers because they were like, you're going to get yourselves killed and then you're going to ruin this entire movie. And but for those scenes during the daytime skiing, they are really out on a mountain. And the way they did this is they had a sled and they sit on their knees and then you hold the camera low. And so it looks like they are standing and skiing. And I love that. I never knew that that's essentially how you put an actor on skis without, risking their lives.
I'll have to, it keeps your torso the same. So it sounds like a reasonable, I don't want to jump over the guy that couldn't jump over the snow blower and got chunked up.
And the driver just did not care.
Right. I'm like, you can't shut that off. Like, no. Okay.
He even looks. He's like, huh. So there's a guy down there, huh? Well, keep going.
Well, can't be late.
But
he
it
had
is
lots of guts.
Yes,
Oh,
oh
Bond.
my God.
Like, this is the most gruesome thing that's ever happened in any of your
This
movies.
is the worst kill of any Bond movie, and the one-liners there.
Yep. Let's add that. Ugh.
And I love the
Well.
one-liner. I love that
Oh, yeah,
kill. But really, that kill is all on the henchman. It is not on Bond at all, or even any of the other ones. He just didn't jump far enough and fell inside.
Quick question.
Mhm.
The later on, no, they're all wearing them already.
Yeah.
I noticed
Yep. Don't say the word.
later. Don't
If
say
I-
the word.
If I know what you're saying, because I have wanted to say it, but don't say the actual word.
Rings.
Yes, thank you. but not the other word.
Okay, I won't. I was very confused. Why
The
are we
baddies
connected?
have the 5 rings, the 5 famously trademarked rings, where I'm even
But
too
why?
afraid to say that. I don't know. And why is
you'll
it the bad guys?
Right, they're in the orange jackets, so if you watch this movie after our recommendations, you'll see which rings they are.
They have some heavily trademarked symbolism on their chest, and I just got wondering, like, did anyone in the international sporting organization sign off on this? Were they like, yeah,
Right.
let the bad guys wear our
Yeah.
rings?
Okay, because I was curious. I only noticed it after Tracy gets kidnapped, and then I was questioning myself.
I am glad that I knew what you were talking about, because I was I was worried that I was going to have to cut this whole section where I said the wrong.
I won't say it. I try to be understanding the context.
Yeah. But I caught it too. I think I caught it in the night skiing when he was escaping. There were just a couple of shots where 3 of them were face on with the camera fairly close up. And I was like, wait a minute. I know what those 5 rings are. Why are they on
Yeah.
the bad guys?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they get escape. The guy gets chunked up by the snowblower, but then there's an avalanche that
Yeah.
the bad guy causes that catches Tracy.
And
but
they
Bond
really caused an
away.
avalanche for this
Ooh.
movie.
Well, I mean, if
Apparently,
it's in a safe place, they could get the ski patrol people.
I think they had it planned and all this stuff. The problem was they underestimated the power. So they were set up to film a little too close.
Oh, no.
Apparently there were a few close calls and a few people were like, run away, run away. But they got some pretty terrific shots of an avalanche by setting it off on their own, you know?
I would have thought that would have been like just B-roll or something, but
No,
if it's the one they made.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I thought the same thing. The very first time I saw it, I was like, okay, that's some good use of B-roll. Like, you save some money, you get to use someone else's footage, and it lives well in your universe. Like, hell yeah, use that B-roll. Nope, that's A-roll, baby. That's something they made on their own.
But that kind of like ends the arc when she gets kidnapped because of the avalanche.
Yeah.
I can't even recall what happens to Bond.
He
He
goes,
gets buried?
yeah, and the next thing we see, he's in London. I have
He's
no
unmarried.
idea how he got out. They're like, that he's never going to get out of that. He's out of it. We don't know how.
Barely an inconvenience.
Exactly. Like, if this were a pitch meeting, that's exactly where they would put it, because
Yeah.
how did he get out? But it's, I don't know why I'm so forgiving of it, because now that you point it out, it happens so fast, and the very next thing is so stupid that I don't even have time to be angry at the fact that Bond got out without any trouble. Like,
Were they bargaining to get Tracy back?
nope.
Nope.
M is going to say, sorry, man, that's a personal problem. And Bond's going to be like, well, can we at least storm the place? And they're like, nope, sorry, too risky.
Sorry.
We're not going to do it. All right, well, what does Blofeld want? He wants a pardon. And you're going to give it to him? Yeah. Sorry, man. That's the way it goes.
Them's the breaks.
That's just the way it is. Sorry. MI6 sucks now.
Appeasement and compromising with the megalomaniac.
Mm-hmm. They're accepting his terms and they're going to just go for it. So Bond gets on the phone with a criminal organization and sets up a raid with Draco because the only people willing to help Bond save the day are more bad guys.
Well, at least they're related to the person that they need to get
exactly.
back. But if it weren't for the bad guys, Blofeld gets to threaten the world.
Mm-hmm.
So good job, bad guys.
Yeah, because nobody in the world is going to do anything about it.
The raid does give us the Bond sliding and firing his weapon. I was like, that's awesome. I'm good with that.
It's such a great shot. I love the tension building when we're in the helicopters and you've got the radio chatter.
Oh yeah.
And then they even get like fighter jets coming in and Draco's like, we've got members of the world press and you're threatening to shoot us. And then the military's like, oh, we're out of here.
Okay.
Like,
this is a civilian problem. We're out of here.
We're gone. And so Bond is able to land. And I don't know how he starts that slide, but I love that shot. And it's so funny.
Running, go, and start sliding.
I don't even think we see him running. We just see him on the ground shooting his gun. I'll have to watch it again. Maybe I'll edit a short around it and be like, oh, I was wrong. He does run. But I enjoy the assault on the villain's lair. I like that the baddies come with heavy firepower. And I love, oh my gosh, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get Chekhov's spikes. And before you go thinking anything, it's Tracy who uses them. And I love it.
Not James.
Oh, man. I love that Tracy goes hand to hand. We get the Bond music during Tracy's fist fight. And it climaxes when she shoves the guy's head through this grating on the wall. He fakes getting knocked out when he's at the bottom of the stairs and starts the fight again. And then she throws him into the spikes. And I am enamored with Tracy. I'm like, this girl is the best. Like, no wonder we had Diana Rigg. We needed an action hero to play Tracy because she's dope.
Yeah, sure. I wasn't quite sure what to make of her and Blofeld chatting. Like, he seems like he's actually into her.
I know, it's so gross and weird.
Yeah, it kind of just felt like, oh, well, Bond obviously would hate it if I did this, so I'm definitely going to be into you.
But to her credit, as soon as she needs to cause a distraction, she goes Bond mode. And she's like, oh, well, let me seduce you. Let me draw your attention over here.
He's going to take off his jacket so he can sit and talk more about his evil plan.
And so I'm into that. What I'm not into is when they set the bombs and Tracy's on the helicopter. She's like, no, I got to go help Bond. And her dad hits her. So now the two men in her life have hit her in the face.
Yeah. Could knock you out. This is for your own good. Like, okay.
Yeah. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Oh my God. So many horrible dated lines. Ladies and gentlemen, long before James and I were born, men used to beat on women for just the standard.
No good reason.
Yep, that was just what dudes were into, and I have never been into that. My relationship with James Bond is becoming more impressed with future actors being less violent to women. Well, we're not going to get it yet.
Decades arc.
Yes. It will get there. But right now, we're living in a time capsule of history where men just think it's okay to hit a woman in the face because she wants to help. And, but I do enjoy that Bond and Blofeld are chasing each other. I don't love that it's a bobsled chase that becomes the finale.
Well, finale of the plot of, I'm going to fight Blofeld and he'll be victorious, but we're in a bobsleigh because we need another winter sport to advertise. I don't know.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, we've had skiing, we've had ice skating. Why not bobsled? We've had curling. Yeah, yep. we've got all of the big international 5 rings games.
Yep.
There may be a sponsorship deal going on here.
But for the bad guys, why? What's a Bond film? I don't care. Do whatever it takes. You've got to be in it.
Yeah. Do you know how big this thing is going to be? We need our 5 rings in it. I don't know what a Blofeld is. Just let them have the rings. There are parts, once we're on the bobsleigh and I am ready to just live with it, I do love when Blofeld drops the grenade and you think, oh wow, is this going to be like
he's going to die?
Accidental suicide? Like, is this going to be how Blofeld gets it in the end? So I was really on the edge of my seat for that, but nope, he's able to just toss it away, and Bond has to jump onto his sleigh, and they have a fist fight. It's a pretty good fist fight. I'm finding that I am enjoying these close quarters brawls between Bond and a bad guy, where they are no longer using technique. They're just throwing their body weight at each other.
Bond gets to win with it appeared very fatal.
Oh yeah.
Choking.
It sounded like a neck
you're
breaking.
at speed. Yeah. Like he gets crunched by this Y branch over the track, which is dangerous enough.
Why would they have that there?
Right.
But it's overnight
there. Felling of the tree by the avalanche or something.
Yeah, something. But
that gets him and ends. We're done.
It really does just end like that. Like, we are now back in, I think they're in Europe somewhere. I don't think they might be in the UK, but I have no idea. But
at 2 hours and 15 minutes and 41 seconds, they are back in real life. And
they're going to get married.
2 hours, 16 minutes, they are married.
And it's cute. It's cute seeing Moneypenny cry because...
That one did get me to feel, because she is spanning all of the movies. And in the beginning of this one, she did kind of have a bit more somewhat intimate interactions with James. It sounded like
they were going to set up a date.
Exactly, yeah.
So it does feel a little more heartbreaking. And apparently it was not in the script for James to throw his hat at her. That was something they added on the day of filming, where they were like, let's just throw this in. And I love that too. And then we go for a drive in a flowery car, and it really, so I'm going to tell you how the movie should have ended according to the director. The movie ends when they drive off. That is when he wanted the credits to roll. Bond is married. They have a happily ever after. And then he wanted Diamonds Are Forever to start with the very next scene. But the filmmakers were like, no, or not the filmmakers, the producers were like, no, we don't want to be burdened into what is true of this movie being true in the next movie. So take that scene and put it in this movie. And so would you do me the pleasures of telling us how this movie actually ends?
Like how they put it together and how I watched it and got sad?
Yes.
Well, like
take me there.
2 hours and 15 minutes and 41 seconds. They get back to get married in the next 20 seconds. James shows some appreciation for Moneypenny when they had been planning to go on a date. But, dang it, James fell in love and got married. And so Moneypenny cries over it, and it's like, it's like a happy and sad cry. It's a wedding cry.
Yeah.
And it just feels like going into the movie, knowing that it was this Bond's only movie, I was ready for that director's end that you just told me about. Like, they drive off and they've got flowers. And when I had started the show, I had looked at Wikipedia briefly and saw Tracy listed as Tracy Bond, and I was like, wait, Bond's getting married in this movie? Okay.
That's weird.
But by the time she gets married and they get married, it felt 50% earned. It was a little bit of a whirlwind dating montage that was like, But then the time they actually spent together on screen worked well enough to feel like they should be able to just drive off and have a nice little end to this Bond one-off, because why not? They stop to get the flowers off, and what's her name? Bunt and Blofeld drive by and shoot the car, and Bond ducks, but he hops in the car, and Tracy's been shot. And
one bullet.
I don't know that I don't remember if he says anything immediately, but
nope.
A police officer comes up and is like, hey, what's going on? And it is the most human that I've seen Bond in all these movies, because he's in complete denial that she's actually dead. He's like caressing her hair and holding her, saying that, she's just sleeping.
We have time now.
Oh my gosh. This is the saddest end of all of the Bonds.
It is a punch in the gut. And I don't know if a movie is going to hit me this hard until The Mist, like 30 years later. Like, this movie has such a dark ending that you do not see coming.
I mean, no, I wanted the best because it ends with the wedding.
And like I said, I wanted this to be Tracy and Bond going forward. I was like, give me James and Tracy Bond movies. They're going to be dope together. She's
Mr.
awesome.
and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah. Like, and so the very first time I saw it, and I don't remember how old I was, I just remember thinking, what did I just watch? Was this a real Bond movie? Like, this was so different from everything else. But yeah, like now I will give you a little more history. So there are 3 people who are often blamed for Lazenby not getting a chance to be Bond for a second movie. From what I understand, in the order of events, first, Lazenby's manager wrote a letter to the press saying that he was not going to be Bond a second time. Apparently, this was a gambit to get more money out of the next movie. It had never been discussed with Lazenby, so he was as surprised as everybody else to wake up and see that he was not going to be in another movie. Except producers Cubby and what's his name? It's Broccoli and I never remember their names. Saltzman,
Just
Harry
Broccoli.
Saltzman, and Albert R. Broccoli, sometimes called Cubby. They hated the guy, and around the time that the movie was finishing up, they had already decided they didn't want to work with him again. So when the news came out that he wasn't going to be it, they were like, fine, good.
Okay.
We don't have to be the ones to fire him. Like, hooray.
Oh, nuts.
And then months later, when the film came out, it didn't make as much money as the last movie. It only made $82 million against a budget of $7 million. So wildly successful, but not wild enough. And United Artists were like, we want to go back to Sean Connery. We don't want Lazenby for the next movie. So you've got 3 people who essentially claim responsibility for Lazenby not getting a second chance at it, and none of them are George Lazenby.
Did he say if he would have done it again?
He has repeatedly said he absolutely would have done it again, and he was preparing to do it again. He loved doing it. He thought if he could get at least 2 movies, then maybe he would get a franchise. Like maybe he would get as many as Connery. But he thought with at least 2, he would solidly get to put his mark on the franchise. So towards the end of production, in his head, he was like, okay, this was my first. It was okay. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to be even better. And if they like me, then I'll get to do it again. But he didn't even get the number 2 at it. And I think that sucks.
It's not my rating, but I enjoyed him enough. The undercover part was like, well, this isn't him as Bond. It's him as Bond as a cover story. But I think the rest of it seemed okay. He was as punchy as Sean Connery. He was as running away as any of them. Mm-hmm. And I think his confidence in being a spy kind of worked enough for me.
Yeah, he was charming. He was handsome and tall, and he hit everything that a Bond needs to hit and more so. I think given a second chance, if it had been George Lazenby as Bond for Diamonds Are Forever, I don't know if we would have had Roger Moore in the future. You know, I think we would have had Lazenby for a while. But a bunch of things fell apart right at the end, and so we don't get to live in that world. But he does leave a mark, and I think... So this is one of those things, if you look at the reviews from the period, people hated it. It got very negative reviews. People didn't like Lazenby. People were like, that's not my Bond. This movie doesn't count.
Didn't punch enough ladies.
Yeah. It wasn't sexist enough, and there wasn't enough racism in it. There was a little, but not enough. And so at the time, people hated the movie. But as time has gone on, whenever, you know, especially in the age of syndicated television, when films would be shown in order and you would have a James Bond weekend, on Her Majesty's Secret Service would come up and people were always like, you know, this movie is better than I remember it. And so its modern day rating is significantly higher than its contemporary rating. Like, people hated it at the time. People kind of love it today. So
it's not bad.
I would like to know your rating and why you give it that rating. Oh, wait. Before we go into it, let me just say, we do not do grades. We do rating. So the difference, the difference between a grade and a rating, when you were in school and you got your grade, if you got a 7 out of 10, that was a C, and that was called average. But that is not an average. That is 7 out of 10. That's way above the average. The average would be 5 out of 10. It's right there in the middle. It's its name. So what we are saying is that we give a rating. 5 means average, and equal number of people would like it or dislike it. Below that, we think it's below average. Above that, we think it's above average. James, tell me, what is your rating and why?
I enjoyed it. It may have just been because I watched it twice. The first one that I've watched twice. But I do think the sad ending made it stick out more for me and made it seem more like not disappointing, a sad arc. I feel like the later, more modern Bonds also have that same like kind of sad ending.
Yeah, they do like to touch on a tragedy ever
Yeah.
since this movie.
But a lot of it worked, a lot less didn't work. I think the new Bond did a Bond film that stands against the other ones we've watched so far. I don't know what the highest rating I've given yet. I imagine it's a 7, but I don't remember which one that was for.
Do you want to know your highest rating?
Sure.
It was a 6.4, and it was for You Only Live Twice, the last movie we watched.
Last movie? This one's a lot better than that.
You gave Dr. No and Goldfinger a 6, so you've never gone above a 6.4. That is your highest.
I enjoy this one as an average moviegoer. It's better than You Only Live Twice. It's memorable. Some of the stuff that happens isn't supported by like, oh, that's why this is happening. No, and it just kind of has to happen that he has a criminal connection. So
because MI6 isn't going to do shit about anything in this movie.
apparently not. It is. Yeah, I'm going up. We'll go with 7.
Wow.
I really enjoy it for knowing that it's a one-off. I feel like Sean Connery coming back is gonna drop us back down into the 6s, maybe even lower.
I mean, I don't remember anything about Diamonds Are Forever, so yeah, it might tank these movies for us to go back to Sean Connery. We might be like, damn, that sucked, but I don't remember. I just don't. You know, I watched this movie twice this week, over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I was sick last week, but the first time I watched it, I got up and I put a 4 out of 10 as my score. I was like,
average person wouldn't like it.
I did not like it the first time I watched it. I was like, it's fine, but it's skippable. And then I watched it again today, just thinking, all right, I just got to at least remember what was in the movie. And I was like, I really like more about this movie than I dislike. Like, I think I just had a chip on my shoulder when I watched it the first time, because watching it a second time, I was like, this has a lot going for it. It has style, it has class, and I really like George Lazenby. I think he should have had more movies. So now I'm at a 6, and that's where I'm leaving it. I'm at a 6 out of 10. I think it's worth the watch, and that puts the show average at 6.5 out of 10. And I think that's fair. It's above average. Yeah. It's a surprisingly good movie, considering everybody hated it when it came out.
If you catch it on syndicated television in the year 2025, maybe sit through it. Maybe enjoy it.
Yeah, if you walk in on a roommate or a parent and they've got it on in the background, sit down, watch it, especially if you're in the Alps. Like, the first part of the movie is probably the weakest part. Yeah. But once you're past that, the movie really takes off in a good way. And there's only a few bummer moments about it, but for the most part, I am on the edge of my seat and on board with it. I'm really just not a big fan of how we get to the action.
Yeah, and that's I would agree with that. I think the sad ending is just a disappointment. But
see, I love the tragic ending. I love that it punches me in the gut. I love that it does something different than any other Bond movie to this point, and it goes very serious.
It's like the Andrew Garfield second movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what? No. Okay. Oh.
See, but that second movie has, since its release, been given a second viewing, and people like it more than the first movie. Like, people are like, give The Amazing Spider-Man 2 another go. It is better than you remember it. And I think part of why people like it is because the movie earns its ending. If you watch it a second time, Spider-Man, I'm talking about now, you'll see there's a lot of foreshadowing towards that ending. Like throughout the movie, they keep telling you, this is going to happen. And you're still not going to be ready. And this movie kind of does the same. They keep saying like, but they do it with reverse psychology. They're like, we've got our whole lives together. We're going to be together forever. Like we've
got 2 minutes left in the movie.
Yes. And that's our whole lives apparently. And it kind of is because we're never going to get Lazenby again. It's a tragedy all around. I am going to tell you this ending is canon.
Really? Interesting.
Yes. Bond was married and Spectre did kill his wife. That is canon for the whole franchise going forward.
All of the verses.
Yep. So I just wanted to throw that out there so you are not surprised, just in case. I don't remember anything about Diamonds Are Forever, but I know when it was written, it was initially meant to be a direct sequel. And like I said, the opening crawl for that movie was going to be them on the road and Tracy gets killed. And then we were going to have Lazenby do the whole movie for Diamonds Are Forever. But we're back to Sean Connery.
Oh my gosh, I'm pulling up the posters of Diamonds Are Forever.
I've never seen him.
Oh my gosh. Well, he's got his... It looks like he has like a Luger gun or something. Maybe
that is a pretty beefy gun compared to what we usually see him with.
He's bookended by two women in swimsuits, and he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 different intercontinental ballistic missiles aimed at his crotch. This is interesting. Okay.
So it's going to be a great one, guys.
Oh, and there's scuba people on the screen, on the poster.
Oh, man. I hope we get some more scuba fights. All right. Well, before we do the closing, you can find us on Blue Sky. We're not that active, but I don't know. If you message us, maybe I'll be more active on it. You can also find our shorts on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And if you want to help this show out, there are 2 ways you can do that. Interact with the show on the platform that you are using, whether that be rating or leaving a comment, liking if you're on YouTube. You can also send us an email. It is potatochippicturespod@gmail.com. I'm glad that we're back into it. I'm glad we did another one. I'm glad we got to watch this one. My name was B. Sammy Davis.
This episode, I'm James.
And of course, James Bond and Potato Chip Pictures will be back in Diamonds Are Forever. Goodbye!
And we're out.
And we did it again. Can't nobody say we don't do it.
I think it was nice. I enjoy watching it twice. I think it'll be helpful for
if you can pull it off. I think watching these movies twice is a good way to make sure you caught everything, because some of these movies, they have major plot points in a throwaway line, you know.
The dinner table as he's leaving, what did he say?
Slight stiffness.
Yeah, but the girls, their line was like, I know what he's allergic to. It's like, oh, that's where they say it. All right.
Yep. It is bizarre. And that's our first time. Like, oh my gosh. So that's going to happen with all of these movies. I think even the Daniel Craig movies, I think it was Skyfall. The first time I watched it, I was like, what happened in this movie? I do not know what I just watched. And then I watched it a second time and I was like, oh, that movie was great.
That's why he's a bad guy. Oh, that's why all this. Okay.
So it's not a bad thing to watch him twice.
All right. I am stopping recording.